and welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host, smAsho, aka Dan, and we're looking at the sun here in 94 angstroms. This is an SDO 48-hour movie, and we see a sunspot having risen over the eastern limb, just south of the solar equator there. Looks like it's probably a cycle 24 sunspot and a possible other active region, possibly another sunspot rising very high, probably something like about 50 degrees latitude there to the north, just rising now. And that's likely to be a cycle 25 behavior. We'll look at the polarity momentarily. And here it is. First 171 angstroms will fade out. And let's see, it's south of the equator. That is cycle 24. And it is a sunspot. We actually see umbre. Anyway, there are the fields. And there's 171 angstroms. Here is a helioviewer movie showing you the field activity. Not a lot of changes going on in those fields, at least lately. But we do see a dark umbra, so it is a sunspot. Whether or not it's going to be there for more than 12 hours remains to be seen. Here's the 304 angstroms view. And it's a pretty good image of that rising region in the north also there. We've got one more helioviewer movie for you today. And this one is 171 angstroms, which is the best at showing you magnetic loops, as this is indeed ionized iron UV spectra. And let's talk about social media for a quick moment. Please take a moment to press like and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't yet done so. We do appreciate all of our viewership here, and we try to view all of our live premieres live with our viewers, and we enjoy it greatly getting to interact with folks. It helps to advance the science. The whole thing is a collaborative effort, and thanks, Smash Team. We're also on BitChute. We put up an exclusive there yesterday about COVIDiots. And also on Instagram. I woke up this morning and I started putting out some tweets thanking Governor Tom Wolf so much for allowing some businesses to reopen. I wonder when his re-election campaign begins. We also tweeted at Elizabeth Warren, an out-of-touch plutocrat who learned how to drink beer on a live stream. Do you remember that? That was good. How about No Malarkey Joe? He can't believe he has to say, please don't drink bleach. And last but not least, Bernie. There's nothing more stable than a mummy. For instance, Vladimir Lenin is stable, and his corpse is actually on display in Moscow. You can go see it. You just can't take a photograph. You think Bernie will stabilize? Hey, Bernie, thanks for the recommendation. I'm totally going to go vote Biden. Pardon the sarcasm. We're also on Facebook. It's facebook.com/smashamash. The Instagram affiliate, Facebook, it's instagram.com/smashamash, and we actually interact there quite a bit. It's all exclusive content in most of these places. Also on minds.com, and please show up there. Create a login. We're reaching 650,000 views, and we need more subscribers, and we need more tokens to boost our posts. So please sign up there and hook us up with some tokens if you feel the urge to check out the future of social media. Minds.com, where you won't be censored or shadow banned. You'll be able to see all the posts that you want to see. And now we're back to looking at the SDO 48-hour image here. 48-hour movie of the sun in 335 angstroms, one of my personal favorites. I like the soothing blue tones. And you can see both that cycle 24 sunspot there just south of the equator, as well as that rising region, which is most assuredly a cycle 25 active region. And let's move on. There's plenty of stuff to talk about today. and we'll probably produce a second video at some point. Where it'll be located is to be announced, probably a BitChute exclusive. As we're making the videos on YouTube more and more politically correct, and making the videos on BitChute less and less politically correct, as we need an outlet for proper ranting. And we don't really want our videos to get demonetized on YouTube, as that buries them in search and people won't see them. So welcome to the cosmology segment. We are here in the Sagittarius arm of the Milky Way galaxy, and let's take a moment to talk about Marklund convection. Now, Marklund convection is one of the most compelling arguments making electric universe vanish, because the universe isn't electric, stars are not fundamentally electric, neither are galactic cores. The activities happening on their surfaces have electric components. You would be much more accurate stating that stars are electronic. And without getting too deep into that, Marklund convection is something that, guess what? It happens in a lab, and we don't see it on a cosmic scale in space. If we did, it would be super obvious in things like supernova remnants. So here's a great example of how there ain't no Marklund convection in this supernova remnant. This article on phys.org, supernova remnant N132D investigated in detail, including chemical spectral analysis. And guess what? Marklund convection is not driving the separation of the elements in there. Elements such as oxygen, neon, magnesium, silicon, sulfur, and iron are not showing up in giant flux tubes of separated chemicals. If they did, we would see it all over space. And guess what? We don't. We see chemicals concentrating in certain spots, but we don't see evidence of Marklund convection happening. If you want to read about it, just look up Marklund convection. It's M-A-R-K-L-U-N-D. It's on Wikipedia, and it has to do with the way plasma separates into centrifuge-like shells when exposed to electrical current. Talk about Hubble's 30th anniversary photos. Some fantastic photos, of course. And I'm going to play you a teaser here. This is on SciTech Daily, which is one of my favorite science publications. I think it is my favorite science publication. And let's just give you a little teaser here. The cosmic reef. Let's get to the zoom in part, as this is a crazy looking system here. Great supernova remnant there, apparently. And this is all part of the Large Magellanic Cloud. I guess the full screen button doesn't work. Hey, YouTube, learn to code. All right, whatever. Get that crap off. Jeez, what a mess. All right, anyway. Hubble celebrating its 30th anniversary. Hubble always comes out with very interesting images here to show off. And I've been impressed since its launch in the 90s. The Hubble Space Telescope celebrating 30 years of sending back some of the highest resolution images, especially of deep objects. Let's get out of the cosmology segment and back into data. KP index is currently at 2. And guess what? Comet Atlas is breaking up in spectacular fashion. At least 4 nuclei now. And there you can see the direction vectors too. This one is on spaceweather.com, the location where I first started studying the sun in depth. And the 10.7 centimeter radial flux is back up to 71, and for that, we thank you. Next, looking at location of objects in the solar system. There's where things will be in 1 week on May 2nd. And the lockdown better stop. Okay. Next, looking at a sky chart. It's 5:02. Do you know where Deneb is? Well, it's been circling Polaris all winter like it does every year. One of the only known point sources for cosmic rays. And by the way, if you have a low horizon, you can probably see Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn before sunrise. Out there, low on the horizon, near the ecliptic. And we see a little bit of activity there in the GOES X-ray flux. Nothing to write home about, no real flaring. And proton flux remains flatlined. We've added that as we approach another solar maximum. Give it 5 years, it'll look very, very differently, we certainly hope. Next, looking at the real-time solar wind, and we've dropped covering the ACE. Check out this signature right here. Quite odd. Where you've got this up and down temperature, up and down speed, and up and down density. The speed varied from 330 to 400, 320 to 400 or so. And the density went from 4.5 up to 13 repeatedly there. Looks like a coronal mass ejection, really. And you can see big shifts in the BT-BZ there at the same time. Like at this moment here, the BT was up to 8, and the BZ was at -7. Anyway, current conditions are phi angle 350 degrees, density 5.46 protons per cubic centimeter, speed. Solar wind speed still above background levels at 425 kilometers a second, and that's why we don't see a big increase in the electron flux yet. And let's take a moment to look at cosmic rays. Check out the uptick here at Apatity over the past few days. Apatity neutron monitor showing an uptick over the past 4 days, making it much flatter on the month. In fact, a slight uptick on the 30 days. Barentsburg not showing the same thing at all, quite flat on the past 30 days. Let's see if Athens is sending data yet. We hope that they've reopened. And still not sending data there from Athens. Let's check Mexico City, who has been sending data. There you go. Shout out to Mexico. Well done. We appreciate your sending the cosmic ray data through. Slight downtick there over the past 30 days at Mexico City. And if you're wondering, they are indeed corrected for pressure. Moscow, still not sending data, even older than Athens there, as Athens and Moscow's neutron monitors are probably not being staffed. Next, looking at Oulu, Finland, and it's quite flat in the past 30 days there. DOMB Antarctica not sending data. DOMC Antarctica, there's that. Slight downtick over the past 30. And if you want to look at this site, just search for Network of Cosmic Ray Stations. It's cr0.izmirin.ru. Well, I'm not going to reset it. Anyway, here's the GeoSpace Magnetosphere movie. It's 4 hours of data from the University of Michigan GeoSpace Model V1.5. If you want to read about how this model is derived, come to this page. It's GeoSpace Magnetosphere Movies. Click on Details down there at the bottom, and click on the Space Weather Modeling Framework. You can see all of the math that is used to create the model. Next, we're looking at the ground geospace magnetic perturbations here, coming a little bit closer to home. And we see a fairly steady scenario here. Mild perturbations over both the Canadian North Pole and the Siberian North Pole. And you can guess about where the South Pole would be. It's north of Antarctica there in the southern Indian Ocean. Looks like it's creeping toward southwestern Australia. Believe it or not, it's a polar excursion. And I just want to check and see if we have any chats. And I'm back. Looking at the GOES magnetometer, it's very spiky here. It's kind of all over the place. I think this is the polarity crossing in this region right here, as we have found ourselves in the North Pole-oriented portion of the heliospheric current sheet, I believe. And I'll show you how I derived that right here. There's the Gong 2 data. It's 1 hour and 16 minutes old. And Earth is awfully close to snapping into that green portion there. You can see right here. Although it's also weakening, and that's partially because we see activity north of the equator. I'm not going to get into the magnetohydrodynamics of it. That's just the way it works. Trust me, I wouldn't tell you a lie. I could be mistaken, but you won't catch me lying, ever. Here's the line of sight field plot, and you're going to see a little bit of a misshaping of the B field here. These blue field force lines, potential field force lines. You're going to see a little bit of a wobble in that, and that has to do with the current activity on the eastern limb. relativistic electrons have kind of peaked out there. And as we see this continued elevated solar wind coming through, this is why I've been forecasting incorrectly about electron flux. And there's the GOES electron flux. I expected this to be in warning levels yesterday, and it didn't make it. And that's because the solar wind did not subside sufficiently. So we're still in a bit of a what I would call a proton light scenario. You can see the electron flux is still pretty cratered there. And as soon as the solar wind goes back to background levels, we're expecting to see this go into warning threshold within 24 hours. So watch for that. It'll mess up your GPSs a little bit. And next we're looking at 6 hours of the ionosphere, and it's very wobbly today. It's sudden charge ups and sudden discharges happening out there, especially on the nighttime side. You can see that giant red blob. That whole area is not even an F2 layer, it's just an F layer. As at nighttime, the F2 layer goes away, and we get no double layer, we get just an F layer in the ionosphere. Anyway, there's 6 hours of data. Here's the latest image. That one coming in at 9 o'clock UT, and you see that big red blob there over Antarctica. That is an F layer, where radio propagation just sucks. Next, looking at windy.com's pressure maps. By the way, they have a great mobile app. We're going to advance this about 24 hours into the GFS forecast. And it looks like there's another low pressure creeping up on me here in eastern Pennsylvania. And here's where things will be at 12 noon Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow. Looks like another low pressure system is going to be around the Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio triple border. So the largest quake of the past 24 is this 6.3 at Papua New Guinea. No tsunami warning, watch, or advisory in effect. And we're just going to scroll up the list, noting anything deep or anything above a 6 or anything super weird. Ultra shallow quakes we note also, as they typically indicate magmatic activity. So here's a deep quake in the deep quake capital of the world near Fiji. It's at nearly 500 kilometers depth and a 5.0 magnitude. And just scrolling up the list, here's another deep quake in Indonesia. Indonesia sees a 4.5 magnitude quake at 204 kilometers. Again, the largest quake of the past 24 came in at 2:53 Universal Time this morning, April 25th. It's a 6.3 magnitude. And it's located northeast of Australia. Here's a deep quake at Chile. So let's see. We see that 6.3. Only 8 minutes later, we see a 5.0 at Tonga. And only 28 minutes later, we see a deep quake at Chile, 97.5 kilometers at a 4.2 magnitude. So a sudden quake-like pulse there goes right across the planet. Boom, boom, boom. In hardly a half hour. And what else do we see? Here's another deep quake in Indonesia. It's at 174 kilometers depth and a 4.3 magnitude. Deep quake at Alaska, small magnitude. Another deep quake at Alaska. And let's move on to volcanoes. Abico's erupting. Flight level 11,000 there. Don't fly your hang glider over Mount Abico. Mount Aso, flight level 6,000 there. Sakurajima exploding. 12,000 foot plume of ash there. Don't attempt to pole vault that caldera. Semeru exploding. Flight level 14,000 Dacono exploding. Flight level 7,000 Popocatépetl also exploding, just like Nevado's Del Ruiz. Flight levels 20,000 at both of those mountains. Sangay exploding. Ash plume of 20,000 feet there. Revenador, flight level 14,000 there. And continuous emissions at Sabancaya are a reason to not attempt a back handspring or a tightrope walk over the caldera. Let's talk about Covidiocy for a quick minute. Well, let's just say there's a lot of Covidiocy. And one of the ways to get rid of that is with some of that. So, I mean, it's going to be like, and it's going to be gone. I mean, this thing isn't your enemy, and really it's not particularly scary, although a lot of propaganda on the internet may try to convince you that it is. Let's talk about some stories. Now, first of all, former NCAA linebacker Dr. Rachel Levine, Pennsylvania's physician general, has been fudging some numbers as the Tom Wolf, governor of Pennsylvania administration, scrambles to cover its tracks on false COVID-19 death figures. So we've updated the forum to include that, as well as a story about some law enforcement personnel who swear an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution in addition to their local statutes, standing up to the tyranny with the people. In other words, some police officers are refusing to enforce certain ridiculous laws that are utterly ineffective and utterly unconstitutional, as the government overreach, like propaganda from the mainstream media, has reached a critical level. Turns out Trump was right regarding the fatality rate. Turns out I was right too. If you want to read all about these stories, we're still amassing data here at smashomash.com/forum. You can find a link at the bottom of smashomash.org, or you can just type in smashomash.com/forum and you'll be there. So anyway, here's Dr. Rachel Levine several years ago. This photo's from Dr. Levine's office. And if you want to read all about Dr. Levine, just type in Meet Rachel Levine. You'll find this WAPO article. Let's read a quote. I've got a specific quote here, so just bear with me as we are streaming this live. In order to fit in, Dr. Levine, at that time known as Richard Levine, played linebacker for the football team, where Dr. Levine would tackle but didn't like the idea of potentially hurting another player. Dr. Levine remains a rabid New England Patriots fan. Ugh. Can't stand the Patriots. Now, I would like to invite you to
audit
your own government. Because when your government wants to hold you accountable, but your government doesn't want to be held accountable. See what I'm saying? So, get in line to
audit
your public officials. And I won't talk about my plans in this video. Anyway, Pennsylvania has removed 200 deaths as people have come back to life mysteriously. So, there's some interesting stuff, to say the least, going on with the propaganda coming from both the government and the mainstream media, so take it with a grain of salt, or perhaps a truckload. Let's talk about some over-the-counter medications. Well, one of them is Mucinex. I'm sure you've seen the commercials. Guafenicin. And, oh, hey son, thanks for destroying that. It was kind of hanging over my head there, and it was making me mad. So we greatly appreciate your support, local yellow dwarf. All right, I'll get back to you. I'll be back. All right, lates. Here's some over-the-counter meds. And these are not advices on how to cure COVID-19 or how to treat COVID-19. These are simply some over-the-counter medicines that I actually have. Now, one of them is guafenicin. Basically what this does is it thins your mucus and makes it easier to cough out mucus. So it's got some side effects and it's used for various different things. Guafenicin, it's also used as an addition to Primatene and Bronchade ephedrine products. So if you're going to go buy ephedrine, now some of us find that ephedrine works extremely well to alleviate cold symptoms, and basically nothing else over the counter does it. Keep in mind it is a stimulant, so it's going to raise your blood pressure, and it is indeed used to prevent low blood pressure during spinal anesthesia. It is illegal in endurance sports if you consume too much of it. There's a certain amount, the last I checked, according to the World Anti-Doping Administration. You can have a little bit of ephedrine, but not too much, just like caffeine. So ephedrine is what we typically use when we've got certain congestive type symptoms. Again, keep in mind it is a pretty strong stimulant. It raises your blood pressure, and in Pennsylvania, in order to buy this, you actually have to show identification because it is used in the manufacture of meth. I don't think it is anymore, which is why they add the guaifenesin to it. But in any case, ephedrine, it works for me. It works for SMASH staff who has asthma, and so she's extra sensitive. So perhaps consider getting some of that to add to your home remedy over-the-counter repertoire. Again, read the warnings, but this is a legal drug that you can buy, and it's a performance-enhancing substance that it'll make you, it'll raise your heart rate, it'll raise your blood pressure, but if you can handle it, if you can handle stimulants, it may work very good to cure any kind of congestion. Also, something else everybody should have in their medicine cabinet is diphenhydramine. That's right. Do you have an EpiPen? No, you don't have an EpiPen? Well, do you have a bunch of these little pink pills? Well, they could save your life in that if you get stung by a bee and your throat starts to swell up and you don't have an EpiPen, it may be too late for the ambulance to show up. You can chew a couple of these, and while it might make you drowsy, it might save your bacon. Diphenhydramine, known as Benadryl. It can also be used for insomnia. I don't recommend it because it makes me feel very strangely, and it doesn't really help my sleep. It just makes me feel odd. But it's a remedy to sudden allergy. So really everybody should have an EpiPen or two at home. I know they're very expensive, but one of the ways to help reduce your allergies is diphenhydramine. It's going to make you drowsy. Again, none of this is actual medical advice. I'm just telling you about over-the-counter drugs that are available for most people at the drugstore. So this one doesn't require any identification or anything like that. Pennsylvania keeps track of if people buy too much ephedrine, pseudoephedrine, and those type of related molecules because, again, there are concerns about organized crime. Next, we're going to look at the jet streams. Now that we're off of the topic of covidiocy, please don't be a covidiot, and leave a comment if you think the word of the year is going to be covidiots. I'm pretty sure that we're going to blow up the hashtag covidiots to the point where it becomes the word of the year, covidiots. Anyway, there are the jet streams in the eastern world. Powerful looking doubled up jets in the south. Here is the western world. Extreme bends in the south on this side. And you're probably going to hear about Greenland burning up as we can see warm air being injected very far north. It still has 9 feet of snow from coast to coast, and it will all summer. Mark my words, we'll cover it. Next, we're looking at water vapor maps here. It's Europe and Africa. There are those water vapor maps. Here is the Far East and Oceania. And next we're looking at the lightning maps of the U.S. as we see lightning strike in Florida once again. St. Petersburg, there's thunder rolling in. If you haven't checked it out, lightningmaps.org. Next time you hear thunder, tell your friends and your foes that you have a direct connection with Odin and Thor, and it'll freak them out when you can forecast thunder. Believe it or not, I've done it. And we see some heavy rain here, some pretty nasty looking storms there over eastern Iowa. And a pretty strong rotational system there over the entire state of Missouri and Illinois. U.S. water vapor map is next. And we're going to look at that area over Mississippi, as there's a big convergence, a big push from some cold air and some warm air coming together. This region right here, showing obvious electrical activity there in the atmosphere. You can see all of these. The mode of water motion is this way, and you can see perpendicular lines to that mode of motion. That is what we call the Hall effect. The Hall effect. It's when you see perpendicular fields associated with electric current or perpendicular current associated with magnetic fields. They all feed each other. And anyway, you can see this dry mass of air coming down like this, and it's pushing along this system. And this is a warmer mass of air, so there's a serious convergence happening there. And if you flew a plane over this sort of a path, it would be a little bit on the turbulent side, as we see massive pressure gradients there. And here ends today's atmospheric physics. And hey, Smash team, thanks for tuning in, by the way. Please don't forget to share the content on your social media. If you enjoy it, please press like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. And the reason that we call it the Smash team, folks, is because the whole thing is a collaborative effort. I'm not any smarter than anybody else. So you're more than capable of forecasting all the same stuff that I forecast. It's just a matter of accessing the data, knowing the physics a little bit, knowing how the data relates to the other data, and you won't look like a COVIDiot. So thanks again, Smash team. And today we're talking about our mission number 4, and you can go view this yourself if you want to. It's smashomash.com/forum/mission to demonstrate cutting-edge proof-of-concept solutions to problems, such as celebrating exiting from society by drinking champagne, something we'll talk about later. Now, all of our Patreon posts, as well as our Subscribe-Star posts, are completely free. There are no tiers throughout the month of April. We like to give sometimes, and April is the month that we like to do it. It's what we use for our fundraising month, as it is a very important spring this year in terms of both the neo-renaissance and solar activity and all that sort of stuff. So thanks to our patrons, whether you're an assistant producer at the intro level or an associate producer at the gold level, we greatly appreciate your support. Patreon is the primary source of funding for the content. And again, all posts are completely public, both on Patreon and on Subscribe-Star. So we always put up some public posts in both locations anyway. You may want to just subscribe there, even if you don't want to pay us 1 red cent, because some of the content is still publicly posted. You'll at least see the activity, and let's take a look at that sunspot. Will it be named? Leave a comment if you have an opinion. It's actually grown a little bit since I did show prep, and I see a couple extra umbrae possibly forming in there. So this is something to keep an eye on throughout the day. Good stuff. Sunspot 2760, most likely going to be named, I would say. It's quite small. Here's a close-up of the fields. And it has gained a little complexity just this morning yet. We also see some magnetic organization happening behind it back here. So nice little uptick in solar activity there. Last but not least, let's break out the 131 angstroms 48-hour movie and get this thing uploaded so we can view the live premiere with our viewers. Now we greatly enjoy viewing the live premieres with our viewers, as it's super fun to interact and answer questions in real time. And keep in mind, folks, when I say that I'm not only smAsho, but I'm also a client, I'm not kidding. Part of the reason I make these videos is to view them on a much, much larger screen. So that's part of the reasoning, folks. Again, thanks for tuning in. Remember, stare at the sun. When you do, don't drink. And if you do drink, don't drive. Please don't drive. And welcome to the Neo-Renaissance, folks. It'll never be now again. And may that solar wind be at your back and that atherosclerosis absent from your arteries.